The Ukrainian coup, Qatar, oil pipelines, they all connected to the dollar? Stay tuned, you're not going to want to miss this. Welcome. Now, we left off with Putin, and I do want to kind of caveat, well, let's just say, we have this beef with Russia. Now, I'm not talking about the whole Russian hacking story because, folks, how comical is this? We all know that the Russian hacking story is a complete lie. They were going to war with Russia. And I know in the debates even made it clear, Clinton made it very clear she would have went to war or tried to push Russia towards war. Why? Why in God's name would you go poke a bear? Not sure I would understand that one. I mean, it was pretty obvious that, bare-chested guy almost riding tigers is a big difference than a guy riding a bike in dress pants and a bike helmet. There was no comparison to who was the tough guy in the world. But this was a different narrative. Why would they want to go and pick a war with Russia? There's no reason to. Russia did not invade anybody. And when they try to make Crimea the reason, all due respect, Crimea belonged to Russia, going back to Catherine the Great. Crimea was an area, was the only warm water port that Russia had access to. And in the mountains there of Crimea was their underground submarine base. It was in the mountain. There was their nuclear submarine force under there. So when the coup took place in Ukraine, which, by the way, was not a coup like you think, that was an orchestrated black op movement by the West. We took out a duly elected president through our spec op forces. We caused the coup to take place. We caused the Ukrainian scenario. Evidence shows the West shot down the airliner over Ukraine as a false flag, and the only reason you notice it disappeared off the face of the news media so quick? Yeah, because Russia had satellite info to prove it. So, but look at the innocent lives. And so when you think of this level, we're willing to go to protect the petrodollar. Now, what does Ukraine have to do with all this? Well, wait and see. This is an amazing program. Because what we showed you as far as those in the Middle East trying to violate the petrodollar, who's behind a lot of the petrodollar destruction or the destruction of the dollar? It was Putin and Russia. So, touche, I guess it goes both ways, right? I mean, this is the underground reality, the reality you're not supposed to know. And the reason I'm sharing it with you is because you knowing this reality will help you better see the reality you're being told today isn't even remotely true, so you could be better protected and preserved for what is coming. So, of course, Putin, he's having a good time with this. He's enjoying, under the weakness of Hussein Obama's administration, he was enjoying the weakness. He was enjoying the victories he had. Russia was instrumental in the Ukrainian success, instrumental in stopping the Ukrainian thing from taking place, instrumental in protecting Syria. Syria civil war is about the West, folks. Pure and simple. Al-Qaeda, which they called the rebel forces, moderate rebel forces in Syria, were Al-Qaeda, the very same natured terrorist organization that bombed us, accordingly, as they say, at 9/11. Funded by Qatar, funded by the Saudis, trained and funded by the U.S. I mean, there's a picture of Senator John McCain with the leader of ISIS. For Pete's sake, they were not moderate rebels, folks. They were Al-Qaeda terrorists overthrowing Assad in Syria. Why? Oh, there's a reason why. We're going to get into it. But first, let me show you the Ukrainian map. Now, the reason Ukraine had to happen, we know Russia was trying to take down the dollar's dominance. We know they were pushing to destroy the dollar's reserve currency status. We know this because we became a hegemony. I always mess that up. I'm going to pronounce that perfect one day, back to back. But we were the sole power source in the United States, or in the world. Russia was not going to allow it. So not to say Russia's good, trust me, they're just as bad as anything else, but they were not having it. So they were orchestrating behind the scenes as well. So what did we do? We knew this was going down. We knew they were behind the scenes of messing everything up for the petrodollar, or starting to. So we caused the coup in Ukraine. So if anything, you can feel good that you know the truth. You know, truth is always good. If we could have allowed Ukraine to fall and go into power control of the West, we could have brought Ukraine in, which they were trying to do, to NATO. And if we would have brought Ukraine into NATO, we could have blackmailed Russia and shut off all the pipelines. And there you go. These are pipelines that are coming out of Russia. As you can see how they run through Ukraine and over to Europe. Now, this is how oil and energy flows today to Europe. And the brilliant thing about that is Europe needs Russian oil. If you've noticed, Europe has really had a hard time with the whole sanctions bit, had a hard time with pushing Putin too far. They don't want to go to war with him. Now, if I have to guess, we all know strategic petroleum and how it works. Europe probably has well over a year of strategic energy stored. So if something were to happen in war or with Russia, Europe would have at least a year's worth of energy. So they were okay to some extent. But the Ukrainian incident was the beginning, and we failed at every aspect of that. We lost the uprising. The country is still split today between the Russian nationalists and the western side of Ukraine. We lost it. We lost the argument on the false flag shooting down all those innocent people in the airliner. We lost all the argument regarding Ukraine. Now, why was that so important, though, is because Europe not only needed the Russian energy, Germany alone needed 40% Russian energy to survive. And Germany is the economic engine of Europe. Finland and some of the other nations, 100% dependent on Russian energy. So Russians control the region. They controlled Europe. And this is why we had to kind of stop this, or try to, let's just say, stop Russia from providing the energy. We needed an alternative. We needed somebody else to help out our allies in Europe so they could tell Russia to take a hike. Well, walk in Qatar. We're going to get to that. But Syria is the landmass. Syria, the landmass of Syria, was vital to move the pipelines from Qatar, as well as Iran and Iraq, all through Syria over to Turkey into Europe. Qatar had the third largest gas supply in the world. They just so happened to share that gas field with Iran. Could there be some connection there as to why we gave them $400 million in cash and $150 billion in relief sanctions? But they do. And now what we were going to do was let Qatar supply the energy to Europe, and we were going to tell Russia, see you later, they don't need you, Russia. Brilliant plan, to be honest. I get the strategy from a general point of view in the military or strategic in government. Do you think Russia was going to allow that? So hence the Syrian civil war. It's been going on for years. How many hundreds of thousands of lives and women and children were destroyed because of this? That's why, of course, we funded ISIS. We created ISIS. Our military guys are superb folks, and there were too many incidences of our supply drops, airdrops, of ammo and food and other supplies dropped conveniently into ISIS hands. Obama, Hussein was so brilliant, he was dropping flyers on ISIS militants in convoys to tell them to get out, we're bombing you. I mean, utter absurdity. We in the West were ISIS. Now, why would we do that, the world says? No different than the Viet Cong in Vietnam, by the way, folks. Do your history. ISIS was supposed to take all the weapon training we gave them and take out Assad in Syria. And then we were going to install a Muslim Brotherhood, Saudi-backed regime. Thus, the landmass would have been controlled, Qatar's pipelines would have went through, Russia would have been cut out of supplying energy to Europe. Brilliant strategy, failed. Obama's red line in the sand failed too many times. We lost all those arguments. And my question is, did we lose them on purpose? Or was it just really bad management? I'm not so sure. Because we lost every one of them. Because Syria is still here today. And Russia moved right in with military bases right after Obama and he met. So did he do that on purpose? Huh. I don't know. American president, why would he do that to us, right? We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Terrorism, a volatile stock market, rising food costs, natural disasters. Every day our economy is at risk, but your assets should not be. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you have worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our accredited asset management specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 or register online at cornerstoneassetmetals.com today. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. So just kind of get where I'm coming from here. I'm not trying to, beat up our old president. He still was our president, but you need to understand that either we were really bad or it was done on purpose. I just don't quite know, because I do know that the Marxist element of the last administration, which is AK socialist, Van Jones, outright socialist, he's even on TV as a host, for Pete's sake. Samantha Powers, who was running our United Nations, socialist. She's married to Van Jones. Look at the parents of these people. Go look at Valerie Jarrett. Look at their backgrounds and their parents. Folks, these people were commies, we would say in the day. So who knows what the motive really was? All I know is that's facts. And they may try to redefine socialism. Nuh-uh. Socialism is socialism. Hey, put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig, right? We were trying to do this. Now, I get it. I would have gone after Russia too. So we're trying to strategize. Because what were they looking to do? Right here. The Qatar-Turkey pipeline. But if you notice where it goes, look at right at the middle half there where it turns. That's right, folks, Syria. We needed Assad in Syria to go down, because if he did, we could then control the country and get the pipeline in. Now, here's a better pipeline image than that. Qatar was going in the blue line up through Syria and over to Europe. Iran was coming up and over Iraq, Syria to Europe. And between Iran and Qatar, Russia was out. Now, people say, hey, Iran was Russia's friend. I know. But when it comes to money, I really believe we were trying to turn them. I think Hussein Obama was trying to turn them. Hey, let me give you $400 million cash, and which they never looked into, folks. $400 million in cash. I don't know how that wasn't criminal. And then $150 billion. Were we trying to turn them? This pipeline sure looks like it, doesn't it? Instead of turning them, we pushed, I did a big series on this, we pushed Iran right into the hands of the China-Russia, which I call now the trilateral. I know, that symbol, huh? China-Russia. China and Russia weren't always friends. They did an energy deal that were using American dollar. Then what happened? This kind of weirds me out for a minute. China and Russia had worked for 10 years to do an energy deal. They were doing it, they finally agreed to do it. It's like 400 billion plus. They finally agreed to do it, and they were doing it in the US dollar. They were still respectful to the petrodollar. Then what do we do right on the heels of that? Sanctions on Russia. What did Russia even do? Nothing. Why did we put sanctions on them when they were using the dollar for petro? Because I'm telling you, the sanctions we put on Russia is what changed their mind. And they formed this energy deal, 400 billion plus, under President Obama in their own currencies, bypassing the petrodollar because of the sanctions. So why put the sanctions on them if it was going to force that, right? Unless it was on purpose. All I know is it happened. And so they do the energy deal, and there you go. Syria had to go down. Chemical weapons attack? First one, false flag. Oh, the kids are dying. They found out that was the rebels that had the chemical gas. The second one, false flag, we got to go in there. Oh, well, they didn't say false flag, but I'm telling you it was. Look at this, they cast their people again. Going in. Folks, I'm in nuclear in the Army, I know, chemical. If you would have saw the images of those people handling the chemical bodies, I'm telling you right now, they were not treating people who were just gassed. They would never have touched them like that. Some of them didn't even have gloves and they had no respirator. I mean, it was a joke. It's like they always missed these links. It was a false flag. Bottom line is we were trying to force the world to believe we had to invade Syria. And look at what's been going on since. Egging on Syria and Russia and us, we're fighting ISIS now. And it's not, there's more to that I can't get into, but we needed Assad out. All I know is China and Russia came together and said, no way. Even Chinese troops were involved in Syria, you just don't know it. So we blew it if that was our intention. Because now Russia's made it very clear Syria, Assad is not going anywhere. Russia knows if Assad and Syria fell, we would have Qatar bring the pipeline over. Amazing stuff, folks. To this day, it's happening right now. The narrative you're seeing. So I just care for your future and that you're properly protected. I just want us in the kingdom to have preservation and protection of our wealth, so when this dynamic reset takes place, we are here for the church and one another. So I gotta take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Terrorism, a volatile stock market, rising food costs, natural disasters. Every day our economy is at risk, but your assets should not be. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you have worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our accredited asset management specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 or register online at cornerstoneassetmetals.com today. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. So Qatar, in comes Qatar. Now I won't get into too much of this, but there's a reason the Clinton Foundation transferred $1 billion over there. There was a reason this was being set up. And when the election went the wrong way, believe me, it was more stunning to the globalists and elites because of everything I'm telling you than to the snowflake heartbreakers that don't have any education, even though they're in college. Qatar was the big one. Interesting, soon as President Trump goes over to the Middle East, which most of you never even saw the reporting on, soon as he goes over there and he hangs out with the Saudis and he makes a deal, 2 weeks later, the pressure gets put on Qatar. They shut Qatar down. That was incredible. Just flipped the narrative. All of a sudden, Qatar's out. What just took place? What just happened? They were like it, and now they're out. Did they do something? Did Qatar violate that petrodollar? Yes. Qatar started selling their gas for Chinese yuan. And we flipped on them. And Russia gave them the ultimatum, if you remember, a few months ago. Here's the picture of Qatar. Qatar had this dynamic pipeline. What you're seeing in the middle of the image with the gray area, then the line, that's the gas field, third largest in the world, by the way, they share with Iran. They share it. If you notice all the red pipelines coming out of the gray area, that's Qatar's territory, and it was coming out and then going. They needed the pipeline to go up through and over through Syria to Europe. The whole thing just changed. Now, why I believe the dynamic changed, President Trump is phenomenal in one thing. He really cares that America is first and great again. I don't care what anybody says about that. It's so factual in so many ways. You're just never going to be told that by the communist news networks. So don't even try. If I'm guessing anyway, he goes to visit, all of a sudden Qatar gets flipped from being a friend to an enemy. Well, what happened to Europe getting the gas supply, right? Walk in the United States of America, make us great again. Why? We have more natural gas than almost anybody in the world, and we're not using it. And we've discovered the technology in a way we can liquefy the natural gas and send it on tankers over to Europe. We could be the supplier of Europe to all the natural gas instead of Qatar. Pretty darn brilliant, right? Who benefits? We do. Who imports the energy now? We don't. Who benefits energy-wise? What did President Trump say? Let's get off the dependence of energy. Why are we paying $700 billion a year to the Arabs? Why? When we have our own energy. You see, I think Trump was making a move to make America the supplier of natural gas to Europe because we can do it. Is that reported on? No, but I'm telling you that's reality. Talk to people in the energy industry. Something else is happening. So what took place? Qatar becomes isolated. The attack on Qatar were okayed by the U.S. for selling gas in yuan for the dollar instead of the dollar. And remember, if you recall from the media, Qatar was given a 24-hour ultimatum by Saudi Arabia. And of course, the Saudis didn't do anything about it. You see, the Saudis have a problem. On the other side of them, they have Yemen, which have the Houthis from Iran invading them, causing all sorts of havoc. And the Saudis probably wanted us to take care of business as usual. That's what they do to us since we're their lapdog. Did it work? No. What did President Trump do? Brilliant move, by the way. I think it is militarily. If you notice, you remember, he authorized $300 billion in military armaments to Saudi Arabia. Why did he do that? If I have to guess, President Trump went over and said, hey, King, you take care of your own business. We're not fighting your fights anymore. Here's your armaments. You go fight your own war. Now, that's what I'm talking about. Keep us out of their business. We should never have been in the Middle East. And, politics aside, how about the 25,000 maimed men and women of this country that lost limbs in the war? How about the thousands of lives lost to the war? How about the thousands and tens of thousands of psychological issues from the war? So, yeah, take care of your own business. Good. I think that was a good stroke. But it was brilliant stuff. This is really deep stuff, but yet this is impacting our future's dollars' ability to buy. And this is why it's so important. why this needs to be known, because if you understand the dynamic behind it, you'll realize we're on the verge of losing it all. Now, there's a really good chance President Trump could literally turn the entire situation around. I mean, he's pretty strong. All I know is he could say what you want. He goes to the Middle East. Qatar, who was the darling of the Democrat, in Clintons and such, all of a sudden becomes an enemy, and $300 billion in armaments all of a sudden go to Saudi Arabia. You tell me what else happened. I bet that's close to right. All I know is the president now is doing everything he can to reverse course on the globalist elite takedown of the American dream and the American people's lifestyle. Because if they can cause enough chaos in our country, we could become destroyed economically. We become, like Europe, slaves. So people may want to get off that slave narrative from hundreds of years ago and go to the one that's real, sending us back to Egypt under the globalist Luciferian elites. This is a real game, folks. And I believe we have the ability to win the right way. I just don't know if they're going to allow them. And so we'll wait and see. We'll just have to wait and see. But it is such dynamic information, because if this is known to be as it is, which is true, I mean, now granted, my analysis could be flawed or off a little bit, but probably not too far off. If it's the case, then our dollar is in the crosshairs. This we know, especially outlining everything from the petrodollar, our debt systems, our obligations going forward, the 75 trillion we owe in Social Security and Medicare, and we're broke. We really are. And so it's a matter of how are we going to get around that? I think we're at a reckoning period very similar to the Great Depression. We're almost on the verge of insolvency. The only reason we're not insolvent, we can print into Bolivian the paper currency US dollar. So I can't get into any more than this today, but next time I'm going to get into the Chinese trade and the Silk Road and show you why. Well, let's just put it this way. Over the last 8-9 years, what has been allowed to develop, on purpose or not, I don't know, we allowed the Silk Road to develop. We allowed the Chinese to take over the ports, to take the shipping and maritime lanes, to build the roads and the trucking and the rails. We allowed the ancient trade route of the Silk Road to be rebuilt so Chinese can dominate global trade and finance. Was it because we had to? Or did they want us to go down? We'll just have to wait and see. Until then, God bless each and every one of you. Fire heaven into your soul, into your lives. See you then.